So what do you reckon? Are you a good pilot? A great pilot? Bit average? Would you like to be a better pilot? Or if you're already doing okay, make sure you stay that way. Well, stay tuned because coming up, I'm going to go into some basic tips to help you stay safe, improve your flying standard no matter what you fly or how much experience you may have. All that and more coming right up. So strap in and let's get into it.
Good morning, 7614, 95 Mallow 7 POB with altitude.
Coordinating, Halen and runner, bank pressure rolling at 30 degrees. That's 30 degrees there. Stand by, start 9000, 1013, KFI 25.
G'day everyone and welcome to episode 181 of the Flight Training Australia podcast. The podcast all about flight training and flying in Australia and beyond. I'm your host, Trent Robinson. G'day. Thank you for joining me. How was your weekend? How was your father? Did you look after him? Happy Father's Day to all the fathers, be they aviators or not. For those who were with your father, I hope you had a great time with your dad. Those that were separated, hope you managed to catch up on the phone or a Zoom call or FaceTime or something like that. And for those that have lost your parents and lost your father, I hope that you had some good memories and remember the good times. I got to go for a fly with my son, which was pretty cool. Got back from Broome on Sunday evening for my daughter's birthday. So happy birthday, Sky. Just turned 24 and went for a bit of a fly with Flinny today. So first time in the 172, we took the 206 the first time because that was really what was around. But the 172 was free today, so getting his head around that, going through all the pre-flight and all the bits and pieces, and did a bit of a general handling mash-up to review all the stuff we did last time, and then had a look at some stalls and finished off with just a couple of circuits just to give you a bit of a taste of that before we sort of sit down and brief all that through and talk about it and get stuck into the circuit pattern and finish off some more stalls on the next lesson, which will be next week. So really looking forward to that. He had an absolute ball. It's been just so fantastic sharing that with him and the passion of aviation, and especially we're watching so much YouTube now, looking at airplanes, air shows, displays, warbirds, and sharing that passion with him has been fantastic. And not just that, but bringing in my wife Amanda as well, who is a pilot in the Damie, and she's an instructor, commercial pilot, and I got her to do a bit of briefing with him as well, get back in the swing of things, and hopefully she'll do an instructor renewal sometime soon, and I might even get her working with me and doing some more training. Who knows, right? But at the moment she's busy doing medicals and other medical stuff, so we'll take care of the flying for the time being. Back across to Broome to help with some more transition for the new HOFO there. Caught up with all the guys at Air Kimberley and Horry Falls, so shout out to everybody there that I got to catch up with between there and Spinifex and out at dinner and everything else. That was great to see everybody, guys from Lidos. Ned, good to see you, mate. Finally, Ned and I have been talking online for many, many years, never actually met yet. Been a fan of the podcast for a long time. So it's just so good to run into different people from aviation, whether we've met before or not. Alex, who's working at Qantas at the moment, he's got a great company called navbag.co or Nav Bag Co, and he's making some great nav bags for pilots. We've been working on one. He's been doing all the work, but I've just been giving some feedback and ideas and things, and very much looking forward to showing that to you all a little while, next month or two, a couple of months. Should be out hopefully by Christmas. We'll see how we won't see. Again, I'm acting like I've got some involvement with it. He will take care of it all. But hopefully that's ready, and we'll let you know as well. And talking about affiliates, might as well just mention as well, of course, the Pilot Logbook AU, that's all still available there. There's a 20% discount if you use the special code. You'll be able to see that in the episode descriptions, and also pops up on my story every now and then as well. But it's a spreadsheet-based logbook. It's one-time purchase. It's a bargain, if you ask me. It summarizes everything automatically, lets you know how many hours you've got in different airplanes, different years, different types, call signs. You can split it all up, and of course, puts it all into a simple, easy, printable format. So definitely go and check that out as well. Speaking of all the crew at Broome as well, they're all got CASA next week, so good luck with the audits. CASA are now catching up, I guess you could say, on audits and surveillance on operators, which is part of the normal routine. It's not necessarily because of anything bad. It does take a bit of effort just to be prepared and organised for an audit. And if you haven't had one before, it gets a little bit nerve-wracking. But generally speaking, it's not there to try and catch you out. It's there to just make sure that everything's been done properly, and maybe highlight some areas that could be improved. And the whole point of running a operation or a certificate, be a 141, 142, or 135, 138, 131, if you're in a hot air balloon, that was for you, Harry. The whole gain is to continuous improvement. So make sure you just relax, get into the spirit of it. Basically, just make sure we're doing our jobs properly and not slacking off. And that, I guess, very much sort of leads into the topic I thought I'd talk about today, or in this episode, which is something every single one of us can relate to, and that's how to be a better pilot. So whether you've just passed your RPL, you've been flying for decades, you're in the airlines, you're an instructor, senior pilot, examiner, private pilot, whatever. The truth is none of us ever really stopped learning. And I can 100% attest to that myself. And I think anybody who is honest with themselves will know that the learning never stops. You never know everything. There are so many facets of aviation, be it the different aircraft we fly, the different weather conditions, the different locations around Australia, the different complexities in the aircraft that we handle, all the people and the nature of the operations that we do. There's always something to pick up. So that's really what this discussion is all about. What are the habits, the skills, the attitudes that separate average pilots from the really good ones? So I guess probably the most important thing that we all do every day we go flying, every night, is that at the end of it, we're still alive and we come home. And it probably sounds a little bit morbid and crazy, but it has to be one of the greatest priorities. No matter whether we're driving a car, a boat, a plane, a train, whatever it is, there's always an inherent risk and inherent danger. And some of that we're in control of, and some of us we're not. All right, there's scenarios that we can't control. We can make decisions. We can decide whether we go flying or not, turning back, all those sort of decisions. But ultimately, we must ensure that we come home to our loved ones. All right. So like I said, it does sound obvious, but it means flying with discipline, sticking to those standard operating procedures, the training that we've received, and resisting the human nature to cut corners and take risks. Listening to that little inner voice that's just saying, nah, don't do that. It's not a good idea. And we've all done it in, things around the house. I did it a couple of months ago with a Stanley trimmer cutting towards me. I knew, don't cut towards me. I'll cut my hand. And sure enough, I did it. That's those little inner insights that is our instincts and survival instincts, that sort of thing that's telling us to, hey, rethink what you're doing. All right. The safety of airlines, okay, obviously not all of them, but certainly here in Australia and abroad, the airlines that have a good reputation is because they're achieving safety through standard operating procedures, through strict adherence to those procedures. If something goes wrong, they don't try and reinvent the wheel. They use checklists, which have been developed over time through the mistakes of others and lessons that have been learnt. We learn from those events and we update procedures. And then if something happens again, they get reviewed again. All right. It's definitely something that all of us in general aviation can adhere to and follow. And I will expand on checklists and that sort of stuff in a little bit. So in order to stay safe and make sure we come home, we need a process. And my favorite little acronym, little saying, the golden rule of aviation. I end every podcast with it. I've done an episode on it, and I'll touch on it again just now. But that is aviate, navigate, communicate. You've all heard the mantra. How often do you practice it? In that order, aviate first. Fly the damn plane. If you know me, I have several ways of saying that. All right. But fly the damn plane. That's the priority. Not make the radio call. Not turn. Not do something else. Try and work out whether we should change tanks yet. Right. Fly the aeroplane first. Ensure the navigational pathway ahead is clear of obstacles, terrain, weather, airspace, and then communicate. All right, it's got to be done in that order every time. Sometimes we decide we might back up with flows and checklists to avoid missing things that are critical. When we get into those times of stress, we fall back to a checklist, to a procedure, to a system. All right. Sometimes saying things out loud helps us keep on track and stay ahead of things. Do I need to be doing this right now? It helps us stick to that mantra. All right. The next one is practicing what saves lives. In our case, in-flight emergencies. Thankfully, we don't do them every day. We don't get to practice them every day. We don't perform them every day. We are in an inherently safe environment, but sometimes things happen. And as I keep saying, the way we react to that will be the deciding factor as to how we come out of it. All right, so forced landings, energy management, landing the aeroplane precisely on the aiming point or a touchdown point, right? Not just landing wherever we end up touching down. All right, mastering those engine failures, being aware and briefing yourself as you approach an airfield, taking in the environment so that you know what's around if you need it, especially when you come to unfamiliar aerodromes. Right? You want to have those skills in the back pocket to survive it. If you've got access to simulators, again, depending on the fidelity and what they do, you can get a lot out of a basic desktop sim still and really practice some scenarios. And it's not just the emergency in its initial response phase, but it's what you do thereafter that often in flight school and that sort of thing you don't get to practice. It's the initial reaction and drill, and then you go, good, well done, reset, and then off you go. But it's usually everything from that point onwards that things go pear-shaped and accidents or incidents happen. All right, flapless landings. Don't just do a normal one all the time. Every now and then, have a go at a flapless. Have a go at a glide approach. Uncontrolled flight incidents and accidents are the highest killer in Australia, in the world. So we need to be practicing things. We need to be aware of them, keep those skills. And this is where flight reviews, proficiency checks and all that come to the forefront and give us the opportunity to practice the drills and procedures that we don't do normally, to stay on top of it. It's a chance to test ourselves and see how we respond. And if it's not great, well, guess what? Be grateful for that, because it's not an emergency and it's going to give you an opportunity to practice it, go back, review it, and do it better the next time. Which brings me to checklists, SOPs, flows. Right? Time and time again, people are flying fairly simple aeroplanes with no sign of a checklist in sight. Okay, now I always admit I can be guilty of this sometimes too. It's not that hard. There's not that many things on it. But the one thing I always learned at CareFlight was that checklist was the single stopgap measure between me making a mistake as a single pilot and not, because there's no one else to call me out on it. No one else is watching. It's just me. All right. And with time and fatigue and darkness, early morning flights, all that sort of stuff, the risks go up that we might miss something. If we're just doing a back and forward milk runs, every flight can blend into the other. And you start to get, confused as to, did I do that on this flight or was that the flight before? Or even the flight before that? Okay. So there's no excuse for not using them. A lot of aircraft now, you can have electronic checklists, either on iPads or in the GPS systems that we've got. Otherwise, nothing beats the old paper one. Now, there's different types. There's abbreviated, and there's a 2-page checklist. And then you've got a QRH, which is usually a bit more in full. And then if that's not enough, you'll find another version in the FCOM, right, with a flight crew operating manual for that particular aircraft, which has got the whole checklist and the full explanation of everything. All right. So if you're getting used to an airplane, you'll be very read and do and following everything through. And then eventually you'll get to the checklist item and just says run-ups. Doesn't tell you the RPM or what to do with the mags or the pitch or any other things. You just learn that and you get to know that. All right. But the checklists are there. So we definitely want to do that. And a great way to do that is have a cockpit photo. Just take a photo on your phone, put it on your computer screen, sit in your chair at home and chair fly. It's just one of the best ways to run these drills, procedures, look where your eyes should be going, put your hands out where the controls are and the maneuvers, and really visualize it. You see all the pilots pre-air show doing their aerobatic maneuvers, and they're all standing there with their arms sort of doing up and down and rolling and twisting, visualizing the maneuvers and the display. And this is the same thing. We can do that to less than extreme for flying the circuit. Just don't go, we're going to turn base and then, come into land. Be really specific about the heights, the attitudes. What's the picture look out the front? And you can drill these things really, really well. Right. So that brings us to discipline and attitude, and discipline underpins everything. All right. So thorough pre-flights. I've seen some really average pre-flights in my days. All right. Just remember, just because someone else has done it, airplanes break through use. All right. So someone may well have just flown the airplane and done the pre-flight and something's happened on that flight. So make sure you have a good look. Okay. That's your life. That's your passengers. Make sure that you ensure that your aircraft is fit for purpose, fit to fly. Fuel management. Right? Really think about it. Don't skimp. It's not about trying to make the numbers fit. All right. It's about making sure that you've got enough fuel on board. Running out of fuel through fuel exhaustion should never happen. Being ahead of the aircraft, all right? Fixing the problems instead of just hoping they'll go away. All right. So if an approach isn't stable, go around. If the numbers don't add up, you don't have to try and sort it out right then and there. Go somewhere, stop, sort it out, call up for help, whatever else. You don't have to be up there all by yourself. Right? Attitude towards your flying is also playing a huge role. So be open to constructive feedback and criticism. Right? Experienced pilots, instructors aren't trying to tear you down. They're trying to make you safer. I don't want anyone that I fly with not coming home one day. All right? Not something I'm interested in. I want you to be safe. I want you to love your flying. I want you to be successful with your flying and walk out every day. I spend time with you better than when we started at the beginning of the flight. And if we can achieve that, then I've done my job. Preparation is another big one. So don't slack off just because you've had your license a few years or do this flight every day. All right. Treat every flight with the same attention to detail. And that's the big thing with multi-crew flying. Every time we go out in that mallard, we drill it and we do it the same every time. Doesn't matter how familiar we are, how best mates we are, or just, how it seems like a, perfect day, what could go wrong. You run the drills, you run the procedures. And that's with 2 pilots on board. I always emphasize this. So what do you reckon you need to do as a single pilot? Okay. So the pilot in command mindset, it's not just about logging hours. I want everyone to understand this is about the decisions you make. When you are applying for a job, you're applying to fly the unsuspecting public around with you. People trust us. They just assume that we know what we're doing. And for the most part, everyone does. Okay. But they also don't necessarily know how many hours you've got and how much experience you've got and, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. All right. So remember, the decisions we make is what helps make us a great pilot. Every takeoff brief should be done, an emergency brief, a departure brief, not just some generic crap that you learn in flight school, but applied to the airport that you're operating at now with the environment, the terrain, the obstacles, the traffic, the weather. Okay. Threat and error management is all about identifying threats on the day, not just generic things that could have happened that you learned in the long brief. The short brief is the one that should be giving you the threats that are present today. And then as you go out, threats may be identified. Okay. There's an aircraft coming in. There's a whole heap of birds circling on the runway. All these things come up at a short minute's notice. And if we don't pay attention to them, it could, lead into something else. What are your outs when you go, for a takeoff, an engine failure after takeoff? What's out there? If we're going to push in to deteriorating weather, when is enough? When do we say, no, got to turn around, go back the other way? All right. So just don't go through the motions. Ask yourself why you're doing something, why you're doing this action. And if it's not right, what would you do if it doesn't work? Have some options. All right. That's real command decision making. All right. So never stop learning. The best pilots are lifelong students. Trying new ratings, exploring new aircraft types, trying a new, something like aerobatics, just a new aircraft, tailwheel, formation, UPRT, seaplane ratings, right? The things I've learned just about reading the wind and the water and applying that to land-based flying with people from different backgrounds. When we spent time with Rich Stoll from America, swapping ideas, still learning from each other. God, I never even thought about that. And he was learning from us. All right. So pick people's brains. When you get to be amongst someone who's got experience, ask stories, ideas, experiences, scenarios that they've been in. All right. This is how we learn and shape our decision-making by spending time with people like that, filling in the gaps in your own knowledge. All right. And again, like I said, simulators, just such a great tool to practice these things and refine them and maintain those standards. All right. So in summary, the keys to being a better pilot, I'd say preparation and discipline, really sticking to the checklist, those SAPs. Whenever you get the opportunity to practice drills, procedures, emergency responses, take it. All right. And just be open and humble, willing to learn. All right. And always, we've got to maintain our knowledge, constant study. All right. You don't necessarily have to pull out the Bob Tates and Theory Center books and go through the whole lot again, but just challenge yourself. Geez, I haven't really thought about that for a while. Just pull it out, have a read, pick out a bit of the AIP, flick through the URSA. You'd be surprised what you come up with. At the end of the day, it's not being about flashy or bold or the biggest hero. It's about being safe, professional, and always coming home. All right, so there you go. Hope there's some good lessons in there, some good ideas and things maybe you're already practicing, some other things not so much. If you've got your own ideas, things you do, or any comments on that, I would love to hear them. So you can add your comments to Instagram, Facebook, but also wherever you're listening to this podcast, listening on Spotify, you can leave comments there on Spotify now. and I definitely read them all, and I can now reply to them, which is great. So jump on Spotify there, you can do that. And also ratings. You can leave me a 5-star review if you're loving the podcast. And also on Apple. You can definitely leave a written review on Apple. And I don't think I had one for a little while. And I would love to get some more. Just helps keep the podcast relevant in the search engines and allows other aviators just like you to find them. All right, guys. That is it for this week. I'll bang out one more next week, and then I'm going to have a weekend off or two because I'm going to be going to Tasmania and having a wonderful, relaxing time down there. Going to the RAAA conference. That's going to be down in Hobart. Should be fantastic. And trying to have a aviation-free couple of weeks. However, I might do a bit of a chat down in Hobart there at Cambridge or something else. Watch this space. I'll just see what happens there. But otherwise, be safe yourselves. Have a fantastic week and enjoy your flying, whatever it is you're doing. So that's it. Guess the old mantra better come out one more time. Remember the golden rule, guys. Aviate, navigate, communicate. All right, take care. I'll see you soon.